Hey there. So over the course of this 30-minute long video, we're gonna go over around 6 hours of raw footage of me building a fully fledged game map in Unreal Engine 4. This is a mod map for the VR FPS Pavlov, though every single design and art practice found inside this video can be reused for other game engines, other games, other platforms like non-VR, so hope you enjoy, and let's get right to it. After a few minutes of looking at some inspirations online, I jump right into Maya, though you can use Blender. It doesn't make much of a difference since at this point, especially with the new Blender update, things are pretty much on par for most modeling tasks. So what you're going to start with is a modular kit. So you're going to want, wall tiles, floor tiles, pillars, basically everything that would, you would get in like a Playmobil or, a Mega Block set. Obviously there's various design practices for how to build like the bare bones of a level, but I found that using modular kits is often enough the best way to do it. It's faster, you can, update your wall mesh and the entire thing fixes itself, so it's a lot cleaner that way. So yeah, it's not that complicated, and I think throughout the course of this video is going to be bits where I can quiet down a little, because like in this instance it's basically just looking at stuff inside reference pictures or concept art, basically kind of reproducing it in a way that can be kind of copied and pasted around the full level, and going out for that. So I have a really simple kit. I have 3 different types of pillars depending on the fanciness, walls. Obviously you're going to go for windows, door holes. For this map I have a single door and a double door, arches, nothing too out of the ordinary. It's important to note that everything you see here is on GitHub. It's the link is like at the bottom of the video. You can download the project itself and take a look. Feel free to do so. So yes, for now, if you're at this stage, I wouldn't concern, I didn't concern myself too much with, mesh topology or poly count. Basically what you're trying to do at this point is to get your kit with all the parts you want to get later down the road. So you want to get your kit as soon as possible into the game engine, so that you can then do iteration, because often enough what's going to happen, that is going to happen for a bunch of meshes throughout my own 6 hours, is you come up with your mesh, you export it, you stick it inside the level, and then you test it. And I mean, it's super relevant for VR, but it applies to other things. But then you export your mesh, you test it, and then it doesn't work. Like the arches are too low, the doors are too skinny, or the walls are too thick. There's a bunch of things where looking at it from the perspective of like a 3D modeling app like this, you wouldn't look at this door hinge so close. But then once you're inside the game, it's a totally different perspective, and sometimes you're gonna realize you have to fix some stuff. As we close into the hour mark and we're finally ready to send everything into the engine, I guess we have time to address 2 things: poly count and surfacing. So we're in 2019, poly count isn't that much of a worry anymore. I guess what's kind of cool is that you can have a reference. The PlayStation 4 can render 1 million vertices on screen per frame, and I think in Uncharted 4 Nathan Drake was about 100k polygons. Obviously this is a modular kit, not Nathan Drake, so you're gonna have, let's say, that window piece like 12 dozen times inside your map. So be reasonable, but don't worry too much. Something to worry about though is surfacing. So if we work on the assumption that we have 1 or 2 sets of tiling textures per kit, like per kit piece, that's fine. Let's say for the walls, you're gonna have the actual paint, like it's blue paint for that wall kit. So you have the paint, and then you have the plaster, and then I send stuff inside of Unreal. We'll get back to that later. So yeah, now that we have everything done, we just take the meshes. As I said 30 seconds ago, you assign material IDs. And then depending on which engine you're using, you might have to do some finicking as far as the root of your meshes, and with Unreal you have to send everything back to 000. And then it's just a question of proper nomenclature. again, that's super useful. You get to organize your project really neatly. If you look on the Unreal documentation, there's a bunch of they give off neat tricks to how to organize your project. So I sent everything in. I'm importing everything. I never generate colliders, do them by hand. Here I have a bunch of cylinders and cubes. Obviously for doors, you're going to want to use the complex topology option they have, otherwise you can't go through arches and doors. So something I do first most of the time is I stick all my meshes in, and then I do one master material. So like right now, if you look at the material I have, it's there's a color and there's a roughness, but it's good enough for now, because you can have your blue paint, your plaster, your wood. You can just have the tint, the roughness, and then that allows you to kind of visualize the colors of your level. And then since it's a master material and all the materials inside of the actual map, since they're instances, you can just update the master material to add features. So later down the road we'll have diffuse textures, normals, all that good stuff. We live in a substance world, but never be scared to just rip off textures off the internet. Something that's kind of cool is that you can actually just drag pictures from your browser into the editor window. I didn't know if you knew that, but if you want to be super lazy like me, that's always super convenient. You can see me adjusting the UVs a little bit. Obviously enough, if you have floor tiles or wall tiles, you want that to tile pretty well inside of your UV set. But that's not too painful. So then you can see me adjusting colors a bit. So yeah, always something that I kind of like, and my sister used to do that with The Sims. When you start like a room, always put all of your meshes like inside of the actual editor window, because often enough you're going to forget about them, and then later down the pipe you're going to worry, well, why don't I have all of my meshes inside of my level at the end of the day? So then what's kind of neat is that once you have your basic kit, you can actually do most of your level design, because since like at a root level everything is broken down into just walls and floors as far as the player moving is concerned. Often enough online you can find people talking about level design when they mean level art. So I'm doing pure design right now. Obviously this is going to vary from game to game, and luckily enough, since this is a mod map for Pavlov, all I have to do is plop in a bunch of spawns at the end of the day, and then it basically works out of the box. But yes, for that, always, I'm not a level designer by trade, so keep a lookout for your design practices, and since that's a common issue, don't forget to actually lower the camera down inside of the rooms. You'll see me do that throughout the video a bunch of times. I just fly through level in first person, because I find that often enough one can lose touch of what they're doing. So you see, after I just used walls, and then I can just plug windows. That's gonna influence your lighting down the road, but you have your kit pieces, use them, then what's kind of neat is you can already kind of see stuff coming together. Down the pipe, I'm gonna change the window shapes I think a bit, or the doors, but I don't really have to worry about the import process again, because since they're just FBX files, I can just overwrite what I currently have, and then Unreal kind of refreshes the whole thing automatically for me. Here you can see me already placing reflection probes. I'm in the design school that optimize first and then don't do anything later. So obviously you have folders in Unreal, use them. So the way I see it, if you have an incremental pass on level design, level art, lighting, effects, if you have them down the road, it's kind of convenient, because if everything goes to hell, then you still have a level that you built. Right now I could build lighting for the level and it would look god awful, but it'd still be playable. So yes, I think at this point we're closing in on the end of I'd say the third of the entire design process, and then you can actually see me bake the lights there. Then I'm doing that a bunch of times, and there's something. Here I'm going to do some minor adjustments to the reflections. That depends on your map, but there's a whole lot of marble in mine, so you need to have pretty rock solid reflection cubes. So now you're going to see me do what I said I would do, jump back into Maya and do minor adjustments. adding material IDs, because I mean we're in 2019, fortunately enough, so you know when you bake the lights there's light bounces. So as I said earlier, so I'm adding stuff onto my master materials, so now I can support textures. So now I can actually kind of previs marble textures onto my stuff. And again, it's just I mean this whole video is going to be pretty repetitive. It's going to be 30 minutes long. Anyways, so now that we have our basic modular kit, when we bake the lights, everything obviously is super dark inside. So what I'm going to do now is come up with sources of light. So you can see me add a material ID on a ceiling tile, so that you can have like a ceiling window. Right here I'm working on like a wall lamp mesh. Throughout the design process, normally what I do is I do the modular kit, then lights so I can see what I'm doing, then large furniture like desks, whatever, and then small furniture. So you kind of go from like a really rough draft and then you work getting more and more granular. We'll get to that anyways. So yeah, here it's just more reworking, more exporting back to Unreal. Yeah. Now, obviously, you know that our basic material can't support everything. So obviously, if you need something else, like for now, I need material with emissive light. That's what I do. I compile the material. And yeah, what's cool is that obviously you don't have a single lamp, you don't have a single opaque texture, so you can author those master materials and have a billion instances after that. Another slightly unrelated tip is that if you're lazy like me, something I like to do is have my light sources as Unreal blueprints or Unity prefabs, so that I can place the actual mesh and the light at the same time. Professional lighting artists would probably kill me, but I'm not a professional lighting artist by trade, so whatever. So then, you know, that's what I did. So now, not only do I place, you know, point lights automatically, I also have the meshes. Then, you know, once again, use your Unreal folders. I have the ceiling tiles inside another folder, so I can just toggle that on and off and kind of look at this like dollhouse sort of view. So since I like semi-recently added texture support onto my master material, at this point I'm now adding a bunch of normals. I was really excited to get carpet into the actual corridors. Yeah, there's not much else to it for now. I'll see you in 30 seconds. At this point, I'm placing the nav mesh for the Pavlov AI. Obviously, I guess this is a general nav mesh advice. In this case, the doors were too tight for the agents, so I actually just converted my door hole collision mesh into just a bunch of boxes. So that's always handy. I mean, like the time where you did your collision meshes inside of like Maya or Blender, I think they're basically over at this point. From inside the static mesh editor, you can add your colliders yourself, and that's much faster. I'm happy with what I have now, so I'm rebuilding the lights again. I'm taking some time to look through the rooms. I think if you were willing to take the piss at me, you'd say that this kind of looks like the final product. The harsh truth of it is that I should have named this video Design Longplay, a story of diminishing returns, because that's basically how iteration works. Don't see it like your work being inefficient, see it like hashing out every single issue. I mean, obviously at that point I was getting tired of fidgeting, so I jumped into furniture. I guess, as I said earlier, it's a question of going from the bigger furniture, like like couches, beds, tables, desks, shelves. Think of stuff that can be repurposed. I mean, obviously, you know, a shelf can have a bunch of different wood materials, can be metal, and then you can reuse that throughout the map. That's good for performance. That's good for, you know, you not feeling too tired when you're done. And, you know, in general, be lazy. Always try and find ways to, you know, cut corners. If you can have something that's, you know, like a lamp that's so bright you don't see it's just a cube, you know, go for that. Often enough, you know, if you look at series like the NoClip YouTube series, you know, they go inside of actual games, and, you know, game developers are lazy, dude. I mean, if you're a hobbyist, you know, take that chance, and if you're a professional, then, you know, extra take that chance. Obviously, I was having a bunch of issues with the nav mesh here. I guess for the sake of honesty, I didn't cut it out. I think it's important to see that, like, even if you're like blowing through, you know, a solid, you know, 6 hours of, you know, art and design, you're still gonna run into issues that, you know, could frustrate, like, from the beginner to the expert. That's okay. You'll get over them, as I did, just messing with the colliders. Yeah, so you can see I actually remember that I had my arches, so now I'm just kind of plucking them through the level. So that kind of counts as furniture. Obviously, as I said way earlier, you're going to see that you have to fix some stuff. That's okay. Then I'm doing a run through here. Again, diminishing returns. Kind of looks like the Windows 98 Maze screensaver. At this point, I go back to furniture. I guess, like, if I had like a single comment to do towards furniture is don't be scared of detail and spend a lot of time on your UVs, because I mean you can be super lazy with your modular kits because it's just tiling textures, but often enough if you're going to have like baked textures or even tiling textures for furniture, it's going to be at a much higher detail level. You're going to see it, you know, closer. There's going to be a denser topology, so you need to have everything set up properly. So just be careful. I guess it's in a cool way, you know, the smaller the details go, the more careful you have to be. This again is just a question of reproduction and repurposing. You can actually see me turn this table into a bar stool in about like 10 seconds or so. Yeah, like right now. You know, obviously the poly counts may be a bit high, but for the case of me being lazy and this being a mod map, it's fine. But again, you know, common patterns, keep repurposing. You're only gonna have to listen to this song 5 other times before the video ends. I think something that's interesting to note is that while I mean, you can be like, I wouldn't say sloppy, but you can be, you know, relaxed in the way you design stuff. You know, you chamfer bezel stuff. I mean, we're in 2019, as I said. But you know, don't go full lazy. Like if you look at the meshes, you know, underneath the stools, the tables, I cut out the faces there. It's cleaner for you, it's more performant, doesn't take much time, and then down the road you feel proud that you had this optimization done early in the process. Plus you won't have to go back and, you know, redo everything afterwards. So I mean, obviously iteration is important, but if you can do things once and then you're basically done, like, admit that to yourself and don't be scared of it. Hilariously enough, at this point, it's literally what I did with the modular kit. You know, make your meshes, export them, create your colliders yourself, get a basic material onto them, spread them throughout the map, and then as with everything else, refresh your FBX meshes and everything updates automatically. It's cool how when you place furniture like that, it kind of comes together. But what's neat is that if you start with the larger stuff, like tables and shelves, whatever, you can use that as cover. You can use that to block out your level geometry. I mean, think of like horror games where like pile of crap, blocks the way, that's most of the time that's just, the level artist, feeling a little bored and saying, maybe I could just, get into level design a little, and that's fine, have fun, that's the point of it. This is all starting to sound a little MLM inspiration talky, so don't worry, you're almost done. Well, I'll chime in when it's relevant at this point. It might be because I'm someone who does a bunch of tools, but I think if I have an important takeaway is automate processes that take you time. Make Photoshop actions, look for plugins for Unreal, for Maya, Blender, because I think it's not that often that we think about that the tools we use on a daily basis as a 3D CG people, they're extendable, but they are. That's how they're made. They're modular. So if you're doing something all the time, automate it. A good tip for performance-intensive stuff like mobile or VR is when you author textures, make them as neutral as possible. Like right now I'm doing this wood, and it used to be super punchy, but it's just kind of gray at this point. And I mean, there's so much stuff like the tint, the AO, whatever, that can be done inside of the shader itself. And I mean, often enough in Unreal or Unity, it works out of the box. So do something in like grayscale or kind of like neutral tint, and then like color that yourself inside of the editor, because math is always less expensive than texture data, especially nowadays with PBR shading. But I mean, in this instance I needed tiles, so I got tiles. You're gonna get to that. Again, don't feel guilty, this is for fun, yada yada. Remember that debug tools are there for a reason. You can visualize reflections, baked lighting. Those things are inside the engine for you to be able to kind of like evaluate if something sucks at the click of a minute, especially for reflections. If you're doing rooms, that applies to both Unreal and Unity. Look at the way that the reflections get splatted in the debug data. That's always super convenient. Look at the way that the albedo, like the diffuse color values look. I mean, you could see me walk around in the unlit mode like a bunch of times throughout the video. That's always handy, especially with PBR, since you need to have pretty accurate color values if you want to go for realism. So here you can see me do another walkthrough of the map again, and I start to notice a bunch of stuff doesn't work. Like, even though in the reference pictures I had shelves that had light, it doesn't look good in Unreal, it looks fake as hell. I think if you stay lazy and stay efficient, and you start from small and build up to that, you can kind of identify what works and what doesn't really early in the process. So, you're not gonna spend your 6 hours doing something and then realize it looks terrible. So don't stay pragmatic. If stuff doesn't work, cut it out. It's gonna be for the best at the end of the day. If you use modular kits that are too small, or if you're cursed or whatever, you might run into the problem in both game engines, Unity and Unreal, where you have like the light map seams across various bits of the various pieces of wall tiles or whatever. You can actually, if you look at the actual project, there's a setting for that. It's the indirect lighting smoothness. You can adjust that, and that kind of fixes it. You can merge all your geometry together when you're done. That is a super great fix also. I think that's kind of symptomatic to the problem that the faster you work, the cleaner you have to remain, because if you do like a marathon like this and you don't stay on top of of optimization, of UVs, of the way your folders are organized. By the time you're done, you won't ever be able to go back to the project again because it's going to be so damn messy that it's not going to make sense when you leave it. So as I said earlier in the video, stay consistent with the way you work. Well, completely unrelated, I'm not a great lighting artist, but if I think there's like a fun takeaway everybody can have is that even though we're not doing pre-rendered HDRIs, there's always a way to get colorful skylights into your scene. Don't be stuck with the default Unity or Unreal skyboxes. You've seen asset flips on Steam, they look god awful. There's a HDRI Haven, that's a good one. You can get a bunch of 4K pictures of a field, and then you have like super good looking ambient lights for your skylight, so that's always super handy. We're on the last legs of the trip at this point, and we've gone from modular kits to lighting to larger furniture, and now we're coming on to smaller furniture, potted plants, smaller chairs. Lighting, I guess it's like that dentist hat, environment artists hate me, but ultimately, that's kind of the path that always goes last, because if you spend time, adding chairs and potted plants, at the start of the map, you're gonna have to move them, so, do that last. And I know it's fun, to place Greeble around and, to see your map come to life, but view it as an extra reward that comes in at the end. Again, here I'm just using like a plaster texture and tinting it brown to have a terracotta and dirt. Nobody's gonna notice. Stay cheap and it saves texture data. The map stays smaller. I remember when I used to be a teen, I used to be proud because my projects were super huge, but that's not. Don't do that. While I'm definitely not the best level artist or level designer ever, I think that a fun thing to keep in mind is that when you're building a level, remember mechanically how the player interacts with that level, and ultimately why are all the different pieces of the level there together. I mean, this is a hotel, you have lobby or reception room, they're bound together with tightly wound corridors. It's easier that way, but keep that in mind, or the map just looks procedurally generated. While I had fun making this 3D text mesh with Maya, I think a good takeaway also is don't get too invested in your tools, and like if you think like a tool can do something better, use that. You want cloth, get a demo of Marvelous Designer. You want procedurally generated terrain, get a Houdini Indie license. The people making those tools, they're companies. You won't get a medal, so you might as well make the best of it. Stay thrifty and use what works best. I think as you get closer and closer to the end of your level, it's good to spend more and more time under the perspective you're going to assume as the player, so you can, I basically don't look top down in the level anymore. I just spend time inside of it. That keeps me grounded, and ultimately I'm not going to start doing a bunch of stuff that nobody's going to see because it's outside the window or something. So remain in perspective. This is the last time the song starts, and conveniently enough, we're like mere minutes away from the end of the video. At this point, I forgot that even though this was a hotel, you needed beds for the hotel. If you do burst work like this, obviously mistakes happen, and then just kind of like act as if it was just yet another part of the process. You know, start from a rough blocking of what you want, and then iterate upon that. Just do it later in the process, not the end of the world. What's really neat is that since at this point you probably have like a bunch of different meshes with different materials, you're in the situation where you can kind of mix and match and kind of like compare carpet patterns and stuff like that. So it kind of takes away the grindy work of having to do level design. And I mean, that's really the gist of it. I mean, I've been repeating myself for 15 minutes already, so look at the project, go on GitHub, enjoy. If you do what I do here, talk to me about it. Thank you.